Hi everyone. Today I want to share my approach to making custom parametric chain links like these ones. You can create many different shapes and textures using this technique. And the beauty is that it is entirely parametric, so you can keep editing and adjusting as you go. These examples are all of chain links, and that's what I'm going to be focused on showing you today. But you can easily apply what I'm showing you here to other types of jewelry. So for example, you can use this technique to make pendants or earring components or charms or little tags. It is really quite versatile, and what I like about it is that you end up with something, or you start with something rather that looks very finished, and you can keep editing it instead of creating something with a lot of hard edges that really doesn't look finished and then waiting until the last minute to soften it and make it look finished. So that's why I like to approach it this way, and hopefully you will also find it interesting. Okay, so let's just get started. I'm going to leave these here for reference for the moment. I'm just going to grab this job bag. Hang on a sec. All right. So this is the kind of link, let me just change it to perspective, that I'm going to be showing you how to make today. And really more specifically, I want to focus on how to get this kind of filleted edge parametrically, and also just this kind of finished strip around the outside. Just to note, this works really well on flat surfaces like this, but the more curved your surfaces are, the less well this technique works. And also, the curves that you choose to use for these holes or the shape of your link, or like some of these are a little more complicated over here, like this one or this even, those curves should be kind of smooth or rounded and filleted, so you want to avoid trying to use something with a 90-degree angle or a really acute angle, or a sharp corner. But other than that, it should work pretty well. Okay, I'm going to also slide this out of the way for now. Okay, so I'm just going to start with these curves. They are just, I'm going to turn the points on so you can see. They are both circle curves with 12 points. This oval started out, you know, just as a circle with 12 points, and I usually like to, like if I run the circle command, I know this is really very specific, but I like to use deformable, and then I can name my point count before I get started. And then I always like I like my seam either to be down here at 6 or over here at 3, so I usually just pull down. And then that allows you to immediately start changing the placement of control points without having to rebuild your curve. Okay, the other thing I like to know is, well, first of all, let's just look at those points one more time. So you can just see here quickly that all of these are symmetrical. That's important to me because I want to keep this design. I want it to have symmetry. And the other thing that I like to know is where the seam is. So I'm just going to type curve seam, and I can see this is here right at the 6 o'clock point, and then this should be the same. Okay, so because I'm just using these very simple curves to build the rest of my geometry or my shapes, I like to really make sure it's exactly how I want it, because that will allow me to edit more easily and nothing unexpected will happen. So the first thing to do is to use the offset command. I'm going to offset this circle by 0.2, and this is pretty specific offset, but that will make sense in a minute or two. And I'm going to rename this just in case I make another offset. I'll be able to identify which one is which. All right, and now I'm going to come up here, transform, and just use the dynamic mirror. And I'm going to grab these two objects. That's fine. I want them to be mirrored over the y-axis. I'm going to ungroup these just to keep things a little easier. And I'm also going to put this on yellow so that I know it's dynamic. All right. So now I'm going to make some extrusions to make this inner part of the link. I'm going to go back to curve, extrude curve, and I'm going to grab this outside curve and these two inside curves. And this is fine. You can see that these are going in opposite directions, and that's okay. This is mirrored, so it's sort of like a page in a book. It's just kind of going now in the opposite direction from this one. But I'm going to use both sides, so it doesn't matter in this case. I'm going to cap this, and then I'm going to make the distance 0.4. I'm going to just put this on green as I go here. Now I'm going to run that command again just by right-clicking. I'm going to grab my outside curve again, and then these two offsets. Same thing, I'm going to cap both sides, and I'm going to make this 0.6. So if you remember, I made the last one 0.4, so I want my distance to be 0.2 more than my first extrusion, which, as you may remember, is also the value of my offset. That's not quite right. Let's see. 0.6. I think I didn't press enter. Okay. And I'm just going to rename this one outer, and this one. Okay. And now while I still have it in wireframe, I'm going to use the project command. I'm going to grab these two offset curves, one on each side, and I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to select objects to project to. I'm going to select this inner extrusion, which is green. Just press enter one more time. Now let's move this extrusion to green too. Okay, so these curves here are my projected curves, you can see. And now I'm just going to grab dynamic pipe, and I'm going to select the curves. I'm just going to grab this one, and it will select all four. So this, just so you can see, it looks the same on the underside as well. And it grabs all four of these curves because projected that curve that's on the inside, not only to this top surface, but also to the surface on the bottom, if that makes sense. Okay, and now I'm just going to make this radius 0.2. Again, same value as my offset. Okay, so now that's pretty much it to creating this nice filleted hole here. And what's nice about this is that you can just keep editing this. So let's say you decided actually you wanted your holes to be oval and maybe wider. Or maybe you want to turn the points on, and for some crazy reason you want to bring all of these points toward each other. Like this. You can make all of these kinds of changes and still maintain this filleted look. So that is really nice, and that's kind of the first piece of flexibility. And then you can also decide that you want to edit this curve. So again, you can scale it like this or like this. These fillets aren't changing, the position of the hole isn't changing. You can also turn on the control points just the same, and maybe you want this to be more square. So I'm just grabbing these control points and the scaling handle, and I'm just going to type 0 to make them planar, and I'm going to do the same here, and I'll just do this on the other sides. And I don't have to keep entering 0 because it will remember the last value I used. And let's just slide these out this way. Okay, grab too many things there, so let's grab this and this and this and this. Okay, and then we will just pull them out like this. And then you end up with something that is much more square. Maybe I'll make it, oops, it's hard to select this. Maybe thinner. And now maybe I want to change these, make them a little more oval and longer. Or maybe not longer, I'll just pull them out a bit. So something like that. And maybe I can make the whole thing a little shorter. Okay, so I'm really belaboring this point, but as you can see, it is very, very, very flexible, and it continues to be even after you put this nice decorative bit around the outside, which I'll do right now. So you can you could go really simple here. You could actually just grab this curve and do another pipe, and you know that this surface, since it's since I made the outer surface 0.6 on both sides, you know it's got a radius of 0.6, so you can just match that with your pipe, and then you can end up with something very, very smooth looking like that with no raised rim. So that's one option, but I'm going to do something different. Let's bring these back. I am going to put a profile on this curve and create a sweep. And actually, before I do that, I'm just going to come back in here and select my curve. And I just want to see if the curve seam has changed positions since I moved my points around. And it hasn't. But that is something to check for. If you add more points, or you delete points, or you insert points, sometimes the seam moves around. And it's just good to know where it is. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to create a sweep, and a really quick way to do that, as most of you know, I'm sure, is to add your profile here to the library, and then to come over here to Tools and use Profile Placer. And that is very useful if you have more than one shape or size of profile in a sweep. But in this case, I'm only going to need one profile. And so I'm going to use, instead of Profile Placer, I'm going to come to Solid and use Object on Curve. And I'm going to select my curve, press Enter, and then I'm going to come up here to Object, and it's asking me to select an object, so I'm going to select this curve, right click, and then you can kind of see them, they show up here. I only need one, so I'm going to toggle this to 1, and then I want to preserve object size. And then the last thing would be to just get this aligned the right way. Up. And I did not. So let's just go back. So I think I want to angle it first and then roll it. Okay, there we go. And maybe I'll bring it out from the curve just a bit. Okay. I'm going to put this on yellow. It's easier to see that way. Alright, so now I have my curve, and all I have to do is come up here to Surface and make a sweep 1. And I'm going to select this curve again, this profile, and then there is my finished edge. Okay, and the reason that I really like using Object on Curve here, well, number one, you could easily just move your curve there and have it, you know, intersecting your rail. But I like to use this dynamic command because if you were to suddenly decide, actually, no, I really think I want this to be wide like this. You don't have to worry about moving your curve again. It's exactly where it was in relation to your rail. So that is the first reason that I like using it a lot. And then I really like that you can preserve the object size. So if I select this curve, I can see here exactly what size it is. And if I need a really specific size, you know, you can use this a little bit like you would the Profile Placer. This is just box edit. It's just one of the settings here. You can have what is the word I'm looking for? Not activated, enabled. So you can see there's a long list here of these different options, and I just have box edit selected. That's up here. So anyway, enough about that. If you're looking for that, you can just type box edit into the command line. So if I select this object, I can see what its dimensions are, and if I need to change it, then I can change it. And that will also be reflected here in the object on curve. And so that is pretty nice. And you know, then you can also turn the points on. Oops. And you can just edit these right here in real time, and that will also be updated. I think one drawback of the Profile Placer is just that the editor can be kind of clunky, and it also, when you put new profiles into the library, it can change the count and placement of your control points, which I find pretty annoying, especially since I really like to have a lot of control over those. So anyway, that's why I like using Object on Curve in this case. You couldn't really see all those little edits that I was making, but maybe I'll just do a few more. So let's say maybe I want this to be rounder, and you know, you don't have to keep this symmetrical if you don't want to. Or let's say I just decide I'm sick of this profile and I want to change it. I can just come here, get rid of this, click it again, and then grab this bunny ear type looking thing. So, you know, you could have 10 little profiles here and you can add them or exchange them really easily, which I quite like. So maybe I'll just simplify this one a little bit. Well, actually, that's not too bad. Let's see, maybe I'll get rid of these and see what happens. And this is another thing that I really like about working with a parametric workflow, is that sometimes you will discover things that you really didn't anticipate or mean to do, and it's only through the kind of automatic changes that happen when you're working parametrically that you even discover something will even work. So anyway, so there is the link. It's pretty much all done. You can continue editing. I mean, even if I took this now and grabbed the points and maybe I just decided, you know, I really need these to be like this, you can see that it's just updating. It's not a problem. Okay, but now I'm going to create this link and then I'm going to array them around a curve that's sort of approximately a 16-inch neck curve, just to show you how that looks. So you could make this link the same way that you made this one. You could do a pipe, or you could use profile placer, but I'm going to use a rope just for fun. So I'm just going to change the diameter till I like the way it looks. Yeah, that looks pretty good. From the front here, I'll just maybe, I'm going to grab the curve and squish it. It doesn't really looks a little bit like it's not centered. Okay. So now I have these two links, and I'm going to hide this blue and the red. And so now I can array them around, just maybe for a rendering, you know, like let's say you just wanted to really, you were dying to see how this would look as a necklace. I'm just going to do that final step. So first, let me put these all somewhere else. Okay, I have a curve that I use for necklaces and also a spring ring for rendering purposes. And I created those already, so I'm just gonna import those. And I'll just show you what I have going on here. I use spring rings a fair amount when I'm rendering, and I really don't like having to create them again and again. And I also feel like they don't always work when you uniformly scale them, so I like to have control over all the different elements of the spring ring. So I built mine around a gem, so I used a gem offset curve. Where is that? So I used this gem offset curve as my rail, and then I used profile placer to create this this inner ring and the outer ring. So I have these profiles which make the outer ring, and then I have the inner ring profiles, and then I have one, or I guess there's just one for that since it actually goes all the way around. And then I have this one, which is a curve turned perpendicular that I can use for my jump ring. And obviously this isn't functional, but it gives a pretty good impression of a spring ring. And then the last thing I did is just use gem guides to create some horizontal lines for my pull. And I like this because you can adjust the girdle spacing. So as it gets bigger, if you need the pull to be longer, you can adjust it this way. And then, you know, if I wanted this to be smaller, I just only need to scale my gem, and then everything adjusts. And then also I can change the opening or the gap here in the spring ring, and even my jump ring, which is just a pipe. So I just put a pipe around that perpendicular curve in my profile sweep. That's how I create that. So all of these pieces are adjustable, and you can just keep it somewhere in your own library or whatever, but just saves you from having to rebuild it again and again. Okay, enough about that. I'm going to hide this gem. And before, I'm going to put these on, I'm going to use object on curve one final time, but I'm just going to create a Boolean union here. I think this works a lot better when this isn't multiple pieces. So I'm just going to do that dynamically here with Boolean union. I'm going to select my outer rail first, and then you just want to make sure you get both of these surfaces and the pipes. I don't think that's everything. Let's go back. This, and then these, and this. One more time. All right, this surface, and then this, and this, and these. Is that working? Yeah. Okay. All right, so now I can use object on curve one last time. I'm going to select my curve, and I am going to choose to preserve this, the size of this object, but first I'm going to select the object. And what's nice is you can select two objects at one time now, instead of having to do this two separate times. And I'm gonna preserve object size, and I'm just gonna change the angle. I think it's the angle. Sometimes it's a guessing game, but I'm gonna change this to 90 and see what happens. Yep. And I can see I don't love the way this looks, but I can change that in a second. Right now I'm just gonna fix the spacing. I'm gonna maybe try 1.5. It's too far. 1.2. Let me just pull this all the way around first. And I'm going to change this. I find it really hard to see these handles sometimes. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm just going to right click to accept that because I'm having a hard time really seeing it. So I'll just make a few last changes. First I'm going to just change this situation where it's kind of looks very rigidly like it's at a diagonal. So I'm going to come back in here, turn wireframe on. I'm just going to grab this curve up, and I'm just going to very subtly angle it, and I'm going to move it down just a hair, and I think that should improve the way it arrays around. Yep, that looks better. And I'm gonna turn my gem back on, and actually I'm gonna do it this way. I'm gonna show this because actually you can just move these with a gumball and it does not affect the parametric history. It's easier to do it this way, I find. Maybe I'll just rotate it just a hair. Okay, and then I'll just turn this off instead. And then I'm just going to make a jump ring. I'm going to use Taurus. And I don't know, maybe something like this. Oh, this is going kind of slow now, but I'm almost done. Let's just slide this here. That looks okay. I mean, obviously, this is just for a rendering, so it's not hugely important how it looks. I mean, if it's totally realistic or not. Okay, let's turn this off and hide this. And let's look at this maybe, and let's try something fun like drawing, technical drawing. Just give it a second. Okay, so now you have really easily created this custom link, and it's totally flexible. You can still change it. You can see it arrayed here and decide, you know what, I really don't like it and I want it to be more of an oval. You know, even though it's arrayed and we booleaned it, you can still make those changes, and those will update as well. So I'm just going to grab these 4 control points just to show you, but I think it's pretty obvious. And maybe okay, so all of those updates are happening, and you know, maybe I decide, well, this is too busy, this frame, I really want just to have something simpler, or more like this. So let's even make it even more simple. Just get rid of these. And you can just come in here. Oops, I didn't label these and now I forget which one is which. It's not this one. Gonna get rid of this. Choose this. Okay, and then you should see that reflected all the way around. Yeah, so it's just super quick and easy. And again, I guess what I really want to stress is I really like that you can end up with something that looks so nice in a rendering, or really nicely finished and smooth, but it remains totally parametric and completely easy to adjust. So I hope you enjoyed watching this and that you got something out of it. And